Infused with the scent of potpourri, the films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly podcast that reviews one or two new release titles every episode with an occasional free-for-all segment at the end that we call Potpourri. You can find more of our work, including my written reviews, full episode show notes, and the complete backlog of our episodes at obsessiveviewer.com. You can also write into the show by emailing me at matt@obsessiveviewer.com. And if you'd like to support us and get access to hundreds of exclusive episodes, including a 45-minute B-roll recording that we just recorded before I started this episode, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, where you can get access to content at any of our tier levels on a recurring monthly subscription basis, or you can buy individual collections a la carte in the Patreon shop section. Recently on Patreon, I released an immediate reaction review of the new thriller Strange Darling, which is currently in theaters. And I've got a ton of stuff on there too. It's a smorgasbord of content. Once again, you can sign up at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I am one of your hosts, Matt Hurt, and you can find me on social media, including Letterboxd, at the username of Obsessive Viewer. And later in the show, we'll be reviewing Lee Daniels' new Netflix horror movie, The Deliverance. But before that, we're going to go over maybe some movie news, I'm not sure, and then review the new Jeremy Saulnier thriller, which is also on Netflix, Rebel Ridge, in this week's featured review. And joining me tonight, making his triumphant return to the podcast, is the one and only my co-host, Tiny. How's it going, Tiny? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, buddy. It's going really good. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. You're all like, I don't even consider it like having you back. It's just like here's the thing, a real peek behind the curtain for this episode. I even said it at the end of the last week's episode. I was like, yeah, next week we're going to be reviewing Afraid and Slingshot. And then I was going to have Sam on for Afraid, but he didn't end up seeing it. So I was like, okay, well, I can just do like a solo episode for that. And then I received a message on Facebook from Tiny that said hey, today was my last day of work for 6 weeks. I want to come back on the show. And I'm like, okay, yeah, anything. And so I was like, yeah, we'll review Rebel Ridge and The Deliverance. So yeah,
nice.
So yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we've been talking for several hours at this point, but, for the listeners who aren't behind the paywall or aren't in my apartment, how's it been? Usually I say recent work from the guests or the people that I'm podcasting with, but the only recent work that I can think of for you is that you made a human.
I did, yeah. All by myself, yeah. Got it all done by myself.
Do you want me to bleep that too?
She doesn't listen, we're good.
Okay, okay.
But no, yeah, the wife and I had a baby back in May, and had a little daughter. She's doing great. The wife's doing great. I'm doing great. She's growing. She's eating. She's pooping. She's sleeping. That's all. Nice. All we need her to do, and she's excelling at all of it. So
nice.
Yeah, it's man, it's awesome. It's everything I wanted it to be and more. Love being a dad so far. So yeah, it's been great, man.
Nice. That's so awesome. And I like that she's we were talking beforehand. I haven't been able to meet her in person yet, but I will soon. But it's nice that she's already taking after me, eating, pooping, sleeping, and it sounds like she's already better at it than I've ever been. So,
that makes me think of movie reference. That makes me think of the movie Idiocracy. Nice. Dak Shepard's character, where he meets Luke Wilson, and he's like, oh, you like movies? And they're talking about movies, oh, you like movies? And later on, he's like, they're talking about porn. He's like, you like porn, dude? We should hang out.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
It's funny.
I need to see that again, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I'm very excited for you, and you and Paige. I'm deliriously happy for you guys. yeah, we were talking a little bit before. You had asked like how long it's been since you've been on the show.
Oh boy.
Yes. Are you ready for this, Tiny?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're recording this September 4th, in the year 2024. And let me do some quick math. Silently. Oh wow, wait, is this real? Hang on. Yes, okay. Oh wow, I thought it was okay, I miscounted. So we're recording this September 4th. Here in 3 days, on September 7th, it would have been 6 months since you and I have podcasted together. And then since you've been on The Obsessive Viewer. The last episode you were on was March 7th, where we reviewed Dune Part 2.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I thought for sure I had recorded with you in April at some point.
I'm curious if we did. I don't think we did a Tower Junkies episode. Maybe the anthology episode you were on. I think that was actually the last time you and I recorded together. That came out April 19th. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But
yes.
so 5 months, not 6.
Yeah, 5 months. I'm so sorry. But 6 months for The Obsessive Viewer.
Right. Wow,
and
man, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you have been sorely missed. I have had some really great guests, and I'm really proud of the episodes and everything. But it's nice to kick it with Tiny. So yeah.
Word.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Actually, there's an easier way to do this. Do you want to guess how many episodes have been released since the last episode you were on?
22.
Oh, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah, 22 episodes.
Dang, I don't know how I got that.
Yeah. So, but you're on your paternal leave from work, and it's. I know that it's you're gonna be bonding with your daughter and everything, but it's gonna be nice to take up all of your time, all of your free time for podcasting.
Classic. If I could, I would.
Yes. But kind of to bring it back, like usually I do news before the reviews, but I wanted to ask you how the adjustment has been in terms of watching stuff after your daughter was born. Like, I know that I know that according to Letterboxd you haven't watched much.
Yeah, that is the truth.
So yeah, how has being a new parent affected the way that you consume media or not consume media?
Right. It is a big adjustment. Paige and I were talking, my wife Paige and I were talking about that because she's a different viewer than me. Like I do like to rewatch things, but I'm more excited about watching the new stuff that's come out, and she's the opposite. Like we met in late 2014, so we've known each other almost 10 years. And at that point she had never seen The West Wing. Oh yeah. I introduced her to that show. She has since watched through that show in its entirety 7 times.
Oh my God. 7?
Yeah.
That's
7 times.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And like the last 3 times I'm like, you're watching this again? And it makes sense though. She's just the kind of person where she takes comfort in the idea of knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, the comfort of familiarity.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, I totally get that. I mean, it's not me, but I totally get that. Like I don't know if I'm the opposite, but I want to experience the new stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how I am. So we're kind of different in that regard. And so since we've had the baby, for her, that has been exacerbated. Like because like at any moment she could have to get up, or I could have to get up and go, feed the baby, whatever, comfort the baby. She doesn't want to watch anything new because it's like, I don't want to have to worry about pausing it all the time and all that. And
it's background noise.
For example, we watched, right, exactly. One of the only new things we've watched together is we watched the Presumed Innocent, the show on Apple with Jake Gyllenhaal. We'd heard it was really good from several people, and I was like, please let's watch it. And so it was eight episodes, and like there's times in the past where an 8-hour show, we would watch it in a day.
Yeah.
Like, that's totally something we would do in the past. Maybe 2 or 3 days, split it up. It took us like a week and a half to watch that show.
Jeez.
Wow. That's just how long it takes. I had been, when the third season of Bridgerton came out, Paige, like, it kind of hurt my feelings. She was like, she just watched it without me, and I'm like,
oh,
what
wow.
the fuck? Like, she just, and which is fine. But she was like, I'll rewatch it with you. It's fine. So I finally got to it, like in the last couple weeks, and I think I don't know how many episodes it was, 10 or whatever. It took me like over a week to watch all of it, and like an hour long episode would take me like 3 or 4 hours to watch it, because that's just how it is.
Yeah,
I mean, you
that's
gotta
how it
stop
is now.
and deal with the baby, or deal with, and it's actually, it's okay. Like it's not like I don't like stuff now, or it's not like I'm experiencing it differently, but it's not. I don't know that I would have a different opinion, I guess is the way I put it. Like, I don't think it's like I liked this less because I had to watch it as a father, as opposed to not. I mean, I think my opinion would be the same either way. So, it's much harder to watch stuff. That's just a full blown fact. And there's so many shows that Paige and I watch together that we've just been putting off, and it's driving me nuts. Like, we haven't watched the latest season of The Boys yet. We haven't watched the Masters of the Air on Apple, which I really want to watch, because my grandfather was in that unit.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
The Army Air thing. And so, like, I really want to watch it, and I know she wants to watch it too, but it's been out for 6 months and we haven't even started it. So there's just so much stuff I want to watch, and it's harder now. But it is what I was really starting to. I was going to tell you this. I don't even know if I consider myself an obsessive viewer anymore. Like,
no, you are. Here's the thing. No, like, you are. But like, I think the essence of being an obsessive viewer is that, like, you're watching, like, it's not always background noise for you. You're not like you're watching it because it's a subject that interests you. You're interested in the filmmaking of it. Like, you're conscious of, like, the aspects of it. You're not, it's not just something to throw on for your daughter while you go like do your errands and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm still very analytical when I'm watching stuff. So I don't know. It's different, but it's a good kind of different.
Good. That's good. And I'm already, and this is probably something that should be addressed off the mic, but like, I'm already preemptively, like, waiting for you to, and this is not a slight against you at all, but I'm preemptively waiting for you to be like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the top 10 list. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I'm like, and like, I get it. And I'm just like, I mean, here's the thing. If you ever feel like you can't do the year in review episode, like, that's fine. That's totally fine. But I never want you or Mike to feel like you shouldn't do it because you haven't watched enough, or because, like, you haven't watched as much as you want to watch. Like, no, like, as long as you guys are willing to do it, you can watch 3 new release movies in the year, and that can be your top 10 list, but we'll still do the episode. Like, I don't care.
Oh, man, I would be embarrassed to do that, though.
Oh, I would be ribbing you the entire time. And like, it would be a very satisfying experience. But no, I just
want. I guess Tiny can only count to 3.
Here in like a few months, his daughter is going to be like right past him there, counting to 4.
Oh my god.
Oh
shit. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. That's,
that's a thing for future me, you, and Mike to worry about.
Right.
But yeah. But like, just to reiterate, I never want you to feel like you don't deserve to be on it, because like obviously this is our show. Like it's
right
always,
on, man.
Yeah. So I also did want to mention this, and like I've been kind of holding on to this for like the last 4 months at this point, but I do like that, like the timing of this was just delightful to me, that like you were on Anthology. You watched the rack for Anthology in March, and we recorded for it and everything. But looking at your Letterboxd, the first thing that you watched or watched after your daughter was born is like, and granted, I haven't seen this movie, but it is such a dad movie. Like it is like, it's The Judge. Like it feels like that is such a quintessential like dad type of movie.
I know.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what. I think I saw like a clip of it on like TikTok of all places.
Yeah.
Throwback to our conversation in Patreon. But there was like a clip of it. I was like, man, I never saw that movie. And so it was on Netflix. I was like, all right, I just threw it on. Like, I don't remember why, but
nice.
Good movie.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but it's something I will probably circle back to at some point. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it came out in like 2014, but I think that it was either the opening film or a special presentation film at Heartland that year.
It was, yeah. I remember that, yeah.
Nice. Anything else movie and TV related that you've experienced these last 6 months?
I don't think so. I'm a little curious to get into, like, before long, our daughter is going to become so perceptive that we can't, like, I don't know. Again, I don't know where the hell this came from, but I was going to watch the Hellraiser movies.
Oh yeah.
And so like my daughter was a month old and I was at home with her, and like my wife was out doing something. And so I threw on the first Hellraiser movie, and I was like, a year from now, I'm not going to be able to do this.
Yep.
I can't watch Hellraiser in front of my dauher.
Here you go, honey. This is The Shield. It's one of my favorite shows.
God. Oh man. But anyways, yeah, I'm already kind of. This is kind of bad, but I'm kind of dreading like the moment where it's like, until our daughter is asleep, we're gonna have Nickelodeon on the TV, and like the only thing they would say would be like sports. Like we're still sports fans in the house. I watch racing, and we've gotten into baseball this year.
Oh,
so
nice!
Baseball. Yeah, football just started up, so we can watch sports, but it's like, other than that, we're gonna have fucking Bluey on the TV. All the time. Which
I've heard Bluey is actually really good. Like
it is. It's very cute.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, like I'm just kind of not looking forward to that, because it's like, we can't even. I don't know. Maybe I'll feel differently, and like I guarantee there will be some shows and movies and stuff that we watch that I really get into as well.
Yeah,
I know that's going to happen, but I'm just going to be like, I want to watch the new Jeremy Saulnier movie.
Right.
I'm like, I gotta wait. I'm gonna have to watch it in half-hour increments after she goes to bed every night for a week and a half.
But it'll get watched, so
it will.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll be able to watch those movies together. And, 15, 20 years, whatever.
Yeah. That's one thing, because like I don't have kids. I don't have aspirations of having kids or anything, but like that's something that, like, in talking to Mike and to you now and to friends who have kids, it's like, that's something that I feel is really an interesting part of it. Like the thought of like sharing art with your child is just is really compelling to me. I don't know.
For sure. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So, anything else? Anything that you are looking forward to in the remainder of the year? Anything that you're looking forward to catching up on now that you're on your leave? Is there anything that's like you're like, I need to prioritize seeing this while I have this time that I can squeeze it in?
Man, not really. I think I'm going to have to. Everything is just so off my radar.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to just have to like discover stuff. Like,
yeah.
I kind of did that today after I watched Rebel Ridge. I just kind of like put the baby down for a nap, and I was like, well, what am I going to watch now? Like, I watched Bridgerton, and I watched a couple things I wanted to get watched, and I'm like, well, let's just go find something. And found my way over to HBO Max and just looked around, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen Furiosa yet.
Oh, okay.
Turned it on and watched the first like 45 minutes of that. So
nice.
I think I'm just gonna like just poke around and just see what all I've missed. I think you sent me a list of like
I did.
Which, yeah, that's like saying Matt took a breath.
Yes.
He sent you a list. So I'll look through that and just see what I can find and stream and stuff like that. So
nice.
Yeah, no solid plans really.
Honestly, I think that's like the smartest way to go about it. Just knowing how I am personally, like that's like going with just like your gut and going and like feeling things out. Like it can get so daunting to just be like, oh, here's a list my asshole friend sent me of like 70 movies. Like which one am I going to watch? And then like half an hour passes by, the baby wakes up. You've lost that time to start the movie. But like, I think the idea of just like going with the flow, like putting her down for a nap or putting her to bed and then like going and just like, oh, I haven't seen this movie. Let's watch this. I like that. I think that's smart. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep. So I approve. So you can do that. I give you my permission.
Nice.
Something. So okay. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to say for the first time, congratulations on the baby. No, obviously I've congratulated you profusely and everything. That would be so terrible if it was just like I'd never said it. I just like, I'm gonna save it for the podcast. It's ridiculous.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that'd be crazy. Yeah,
yeah, crazy or horrible. I think,
or on track for Matt.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, honestly. But speaking of on track for Matt. There's no transition there. Do you want to get started on the episode proper and do like have start our feature review of the evening?
Absolutely. Let's get to it, man.
Nice. Let's do it. So this week on the show for the feature review, we're going to be reviewing the new Jeremy Saulnier movie, Rebel Ridge, which actually hits Netflix on this Friday. So tomorrow, if you're listening to a day of release, it is going to be on Netflix, new Jeremy Saulnier movie. I will intro it here shortly. But first, I want to get your thoughts on Jeremy Saulnier as a filmmaker. Obviously, Blue Ruin, Green Room, Hold the Dark, which we reviewed on the podcast, and Murder Party, which I never saw. So, and I think other things too. Thoughts on Jeremy Saulnier?
I am a massive fan. I remember when Blue Ruin came out, which 2013, so that was 11 years ago. It was not on my radar at all. Didn't really know anything about it. And I don't even remember how it landed on my radar. I really don't remember. But I watched it and I was just like, holy shit, this guy could be the next big thing. You know,
Yeah.
This was an incredible movie. Loved it. And then he just kept doing great things from there. Green Room, an amazing follow-up. That's
incredible.
I mean, maybe his best movie. I don't know. I haven't seen Blue Ruin in a long time. I'd have to see that one again. But yeah, I wish I could. I wish I could put my finger on exactly what makes him such a good director. I think he handles tension really well. I also think he kind of the gritty graininess movies are a little bit trendy. Like I kind of think about like when David Fincher started blowing up and everybody tried to emulate the kind of tinted grainy movie thing, and maybe he wasn't the pioneer of it, but it's just the example I could think of. That was like a big thing for like a long time, and I love those movies. I love Fincher and everything. And I feel like Jeremy Saulnier kind of has that aesthetic a little bit, but it doesn't feel like he's trying to emulate Fincher. It doesn't feel like he's trying to put himself in that subgenre or that visual genre. It doesn't feel like he's trying to do that. It feels like it's just natural for the kind of movies he makes. Like you couldn't make the movies another way. Like it has to be a kind of a gritty, grainy kind of aesthetic because that's the environment in which these stories take place. And it feels like a natural graininess, I guess. And I've always loved that about his movies. I mean, there's only 4 of them,
right?
But he just does that so well. It just feels natural. I also think he makes these movies that are it's a little bit Stephen King-ish. Like it's these extraordinary situations or like really wild situations, and he just takes very average people who are not superhuman. They're not badasses. They're not John McClane. They're not Arnold Schwarzenegger types. They're just people, and like they make mistakes and they fuck up and things go horribly for them sometimes. But they're in these extraordinary situations, and I just think that's kind of fun too. Like there's nothing wrong with, I fucking love Die Hard, but sometimes that's not what you're in the mood for. You want something a little more grounded, and his movies just feel really grounded. Amongst 1,000 other things that I love about Saulnier. So when this was coming out, it wasn't really on my radar very much until like last week, and I was like, "Holy shit, a new Jeremy Saulnier movie! This is going to be awesome!" And I was immediately excited for it. So
nice, yeah, that is such a good comparison to draw between him and like Stephen King, because you're absolutely right. That's one of the things that really struck me about Blue Ruin was that. And it's been a long time since I've seen it, but it's like, it's this normal guy who's on this revenge thing. And like that alone steeps it in this drama that is very much just like embodied by Macon Blair. But like, yeah, he's a normal guy. Like he's not like, he's just kind of improvising throughout it and fucking up and everything. Which that's so interesting, and I'm eager to talk about that element of it for Rebel Ridge. But yeah, I agree. I'm a fan of his. I loved Green Room and Blue Ruin. I remember us reviewing Hold the Dark and being relatively favorable on it, but I honestly don't have any memory of it, like at all. Which might be kind of an indictment against the movie, but I mean, just the 1-2 punch of Blue Ruin and Green Room were like, that is historic, as good as it is. Like, both just great movies. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I also was not really aware of Rebel Ridge until it crossed my radar a week or two ago. So let's get into the review though. Rebel Ridge is available on Netflix as of September 6th. It is directed and written by Jeremy Saulnier. The premise, according to IMDb, is an ex-Marine grapples his way through a web of small-town corruption when an attempt to post bail for his cousin escalates into a violent standoff with a local police chief. The movie stars Aaron Pierre, David Denman, Emery Cohen, Anna Sophia Robb, Zane G, and Don Johnson. And of course, we're going to do a non-spoiler review followed by a spoiler review. When we transition over to spoilers, I'll play a clip from the trailer. If you want to avoid that, check out the show notes for timestamps. Those can be found at obsessiveviewer.com/OV441. So, Tiny, in non-spoilers, what did you think of Rebel Ridge?
To kind of piggyback off of our discussion of Jeremy Saulnier, I would put this as my fourth favorite movie of his.
Oh, okay.
Which he's only made 4 movies. Which kind of sounds bad, right? Kind of sounds like,
well, he's made
this is
5, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's true, right? But mainstream, kind of accessible. Like, I don't even know. Can you even see Murder Party anywhere? I don't know.
I want to say that like within the last couple of years it became streamable, but for the longest time it wasn't. So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
I've never seen it either. but so of the 4 movies of his that I've seen, this is number 4. But this was still a really good movie. I still liked it a lot. There's tons of great things about it. I feel like it was a bit of a departure from his other movies. I feel like those other movies were extremely unique stories. Blue Ruin, this kind of homeless guy on this revenge plot, and Green Room was this really amazing situational thing where this band was put into a violent situation with a white supremacy group, and Hold the Dark was this super dark and just unique story about people who think that they're like wolves kind of type thing, and a guy comes in to look at to investigate their missing children, and there's this whole backwoods aspect to it. Super like, it's hard to even summarize the movies. That's how unique they are, right? And this one did not feel unique in that way.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, the show Reacher on Amazon, which is the Jack Reacher books. The first season of that show is really, really similar to this movie.
I was gonna ask because I haven't seen Reacher. Yeah.
Don't watch it. You won't like it.
Oh, really? I've been interested in seeing it. That's interesting.
I don't know. I don't know that you'll like it because it's kind of like over the top in a, but not like in a good way necessarily. I kind of like it, and like it's it's okay, but it's just kind of cheesy. Over the top is the best way to put it. I'm not sure if you'd be receptive to it, but it's an okay show. It's a decent show. I
did have reservations about seeing it just because, like, seeing a show, like watching a show with someone, like starring someone that is so close to my exact body type, like that would be weird. But no, like one of the things that, and we'll get back to Rebel Ridge, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but like one of the things that interested me about Reacher was just the idea that it's like, from my understanding, the dude just kind of wanders like around, and like he just finds himself in these predicaments, which is also what I kind of gravitated toward in Rebel Ridge. And it kind of piqued my interest a little bit more. But not again, because I haven't really said this, but like I am not like really like Amazon Prime has become like the last ditch effort to find something to watch. Like that's the last one I cycle through, specifically because of the added ads to it. Like I'm still just so sour over that, especially since earlier this year I paid for the year subscription, and it's like, oh, suddenly halfway through the year, oh, we're adding ads to it. You can pay us $2 a month to get what you already paid a year in advance for, as my voice cracks, just like Alan Richardson, I think is his name. His voice cracks all the time on Reacher, and he looks just like
totally.
me.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Rebel Ridge, yeah.
But yeah, anyways, this military guy stumbles into a rural town and finds criminal activity, corruption going on, and thwarts it. Like that's kind of what this movie. I mean, it's a little different, but that's kind of what this movie is, and that's, like you said, kind of what Jack Reacher does. And like, I'm not saying that, definitely not saying that Jeremy Saulnier is like plagiarizing anything. I'm not saying that at all. But it just feels a little derivative, I guess, and just not anywhere near as unique as his other stories. Also, first time that I know of that Macon Blair is completely not involved at all.
That's right.
In his, like, because he was not in Hold the Dark, but he was a writer.
It. Yeah,
he co-wrote it. Yeah, but I looked around. Macon Blair is nowhere involved in this movie at all.
Oh wow!
So maybe that's a sign of. Maybe that's a reason why I didn't like it as much. But
interesting.
But no, I mean overall, this story had a couple compelling characters, and it was certainly structured well. There's a lot of good filmmaking in it for sure. I even liked a lot of the performances. Good old mid-sized sedan pops up.
I'd forgotten that he was mid-sized sedan and old. Like I think I saw someone reference it also, and I was like, oh my god, oh okay, yeah. As
soon as I saw him, I was like, I think that's that dude, because he has those very piercing eyes, and I was like, yeah, I think that's him.
That's another thing. Like it just exactly like me. It's weird,
right? It's crazy, man. But yeah, I mean, Don Johnson and David Denman, Anna Sophia Robb, they were all did a good job.
Yeah.
So good acting and everything. But I was just, I don't want to say I was disappointed by the seemingly derivative story, but it didn't take me like his other ones have. So yeah, but still a good movie though, for sure.
Nice. That's really interesting because it worked. It sounds like it worked better for me than it did for you, which is fine. I think I rated it a little higher than you. I kind of saw it as, and it's been bandied around the internet, it's like it's kind of a return to form for him, because I know Hold the Dark wasn't as well received. And it's interesting that this movie also, like you were saying, it's a little bit of a departure in certain respects, or it's a little different. One thing that it didn't really register with me until like this discussion, us recording this. It's interesting that Terry Richmond, played by Aaron Pierre, he is an ex-Marine, like a former Marine, like martial arts expert guy. And like, he has like all of this like expertise. And like he uses that a little bit, but it seems like that's a little bit of a departure from Jeremy Saulnier, because he's not like he's a regular guy sort of, but like it's kind of like, oh, but he also knows all of this stuff, and he does, like, it becomes slightly like a standard like Reacher-esque action thing, which I think is where the movie kind of fails a little bit in my estimation, which I'll probably talk a little bit more about in spoilers. But just the fact that he isn't the normal, like, average Jeremy Saulnier character, that sets it apart in somewhat of, I wouldn't even say negative way. It's just something that I'm paying attention to now that we've kind of talked about that trend in Saulnier's movies.
Okay.
Yeah. Did that factor into your scathing review of this movie?
That is a good point. I think he is a different kind of character than we're used to. So that's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. And one thing that I did really like about it is, I kind of touched on it earlier. Harry, the character, is undoubtedly, like, he's a badass. Like, he's a badass guy. He's physically imposing. He's jacked. and he's a martial arts expert, former Marine, all those things.
Yeah.
But he makes a lot of mistakes in this movie, and he's not a flawless badass who, he gets shot and he just keeps going, or he, just beats the living piss out of everybody and just spits out the blood at the end and is like, I told you not to fuck with me. Like, he's not like that.
Right.
It's a realistic person here. Like, he kind of goes with the flow. He doesn't have all these crazy plans, and he kind of just rolls with the punches. And that's one thing I really liked about the writing in the movie.
Yeah, I did too. I liked the way that it, like you said, it almost kind of bucks that convention of, and maybe this is where I found a little bit of fault in it, and we can kind of talk about this in spoilers too, but like, there's the whole thing where it's revealed that he has like the martial arts expertise and everything. Like, it's set up like, oh, okay, now the shit's hitting the fan for this corrupt police force because he's about to just mess everyone up. And he does, but there are two things about it that just didn't really connect with me. And one of that was that it's not like that reveal, that moment isn't like the perfect pivot for the story that it would be in a more conventional, like tension-filled action sort of movie. Because he doesn't really use the martial arts stuff all that much, except for in the end. And the other thing is that I feel like there was not enough like choreography to it. I feel like the editing and the filming of the actual like techniques that he used was a little dry. I expected a little bit more from like Jeremy Saulnier doing that type of filmmaking. But we also live in a world that's like the post John Wick universe, like world that we live in, where the good like action sequences are like out of this world incredible. So maybe it's hard to judge it against the regular against the top tier of the genre. So.
Yeah, to kind of recycle a word I used earlier, it felt kind of grounded, like kind of realistic. Like, the John Wick is not realistic at all, which is fine because it's awesome and it's fun to watch. But this was a little more grounded and realistic in that regard. So it didn't really bother me actually. But I get what you're saying though.
Yeah. We talked about, well, you mentioned that the performances are all pretty good and solid. How did you feel about the exploration of like the characters involved in the kind of conspiracy? Like, something that I really liked about it was the driving force of the drama wasn't necessarily him stumbling upon this corrupt police force. It's more like he has a set goal that he needs to accomplish. And then, like, the way that things play out, he kind of finds himself more entrenched in this corruption thing with this police force. How did you feel about that and the way that the characters kind of were represented in that respect?
Yeah, I think like the first act is my favorite part. Like, I think because it does feel more unique in that regard. Like, he doesn't want to get involved in this shit. He's not looking for a fight. And he's also a little bit morally ambiguous. Maybe we don't know if he's a good guy, if he's a bad guy, if he's or maybe does some bad things. Like, is he actually involved in the drug trade or whatever? We don't really know. We don't. There's no reason to suspect it necessarily. But yeah, I think that was kind of fun. And then all through that first act and like partway through the second and everything, without going into spoilers, I really liked all that. But then it kind of turns around and sort of turns into this kind of kind of like this duty bound thing, or I don't know how to categorize it, but it's like he's not there because he has a personal dog in the fight. He's just doing it out of duty, kind of thing, which is admirable, and it's not a bad story. It's just, again, we've seen it before, and it's,
Absolutely.
Yeah, kind of derivative.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like, as much as Saulnier does do a good job of having that tension run throughout the movie, like, I agree completely. That first act is incredible specifically because I think it's a great exercise in the way that he does tension, because it is like the most straightforward plot as it kind of keeps getting tangled up in this corruption thing. Like, like I said, he has a set goal. He goes to a town. This is our introduction to him. He goes to pay bail for his cousin. And that is his sole operative. That's his sole goal and everything. And the resistance that he comes up to just gets him more and more entrenched in it and more twisted around in it. And like, there's to use like what you were saying about Saulnier in general, it's just grounded. It's so grounded in this reality of him just going through the paces of trying to do this one thing and then getting caught up in all of this just corruption, and in the process, him trying to do the right thing both by his cousin and by like the people who are under the thumb of like the police force or the local community. Like, it's not really as direct as that until like later in the movie, but it's more like an abstract thing. Like, oh yeah, what these people are doing is wrong. I'm going to fight against that. And then in the process, I'm going to get deeper and deeper into it. I respect that, and I enjoyed that. But I will say it does lose a bit of steam toward the end with that. Like, I don't think it sustains itself quite as well as it could have. Yeah, that's fair. Yep. Yeah. Anything else, or do you want to jump into spoilers?
I think we can jump into spoilers.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. So we're going to go into spoilers for Rebel Ridge. Before we do that, Tiny, what did you rate this on Letterboxd? And do you think it'll make your top 10 list?
So I gave it 3.5 stars.
Nice.
And it depends on how much I see for the rest of the year.
Right.
But I really don't think so. I can't see it making my top 10.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't. I'm not like excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I should be anyways. Yeah, unfortunately.
And does it make you like? Does it affect your expectations for whatever he will do next? Because I don't remember how you felt about Hold the Dark. Like, I know you said it was interesting and all of that, but like, I know that I feel like it hasn't stuck to anyone the way that like Blue Ruin or Green Room did. But judging from the trajectory of his output, of his career, are you still as excited to see what comes next, or do you want to see something more? Like, do you have expectations for like how he can get back to Blue Ruin and Green Room level of output?
I don't know. I don't know if it really affects my opinion of him. He's still one of my favorite filmmakers working right now. Unfortunately, he's not super prolific. He kind of blew up in 2013, and here we are 11 years later, and he's made 4 movies. So, which is fine. I'm not complaining about that at all. It's just that he's not cranking out a movie every year. Right. But yeah, I don't think it doesn't have me worried or anything. Not everything can be an absolute home run like Green Room was. Right. And Hold the Dark, I did like a lot. I would put, just throwing this out there, I think Green Room is an absolute masterpiece. Same. That would be in the top 10 for that decade of movies for me. Like, that's maybe top 5. Love that movie. Yeah. Blue Ruin is fantastic. Just really good. Again, top movie. Hold the Dark was a little a little bit of a departure, and I think kind of fell off a little bit. And I think the writing was part of that. I think his directing with that movie was still top notch. I loved the way he shot some of those scenes. Some of those scenes stick with me. There's especially one where this dude just opens up on a whole bevy of cops with a machine gun. And it's like one of my favorite like action violent scenes of that year. It was just freaking amazing. And just again, super unique, like no other movie like it. That's why I still kind of cling to Hold the Dark as a pretty cool movie and something I liked.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to have a green room every time he makes a movie. You know,
Right.
He did write this though, and you know, writer director, and so this is like his original story and everything. So you can't really chalk it up to like, well, it's not his original story, but it is. So hopefully, whatever he does next, maybe he'll bring Macon Blair back, and they'll do something together again. And it'll be really good. So
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
As for me, I rated it 4 stars. I don't think it'll make my top 10, but I enjoyed it, and I'm eager to see what he does next. I'm curious if he'll do more Netflix stuff, more streaming stuff, and I'm curious if he will get the kind of opportunity to do a theatrical movie again, because like I know Green Room was huge. Like I feel like it was huge. And now his last 2 movies have been direct to Netflix. I don't know. I would like to see one of his movies in the theater again. I will say that. So
for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and go into spoilers for Rebel Ridge. Once again, it is available on Netflix as of September 6th. We're going to play a clip from the trailer before we go into spoilers for the movie. If you want to navigate spoilers, check the show notes for timestamps. Once again, those show notes are at obsessiveviewer.com/OV441. And here's a clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to be spoiling Rebel Ridge.
I need to report a crime.
And this was cash?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you describe this book?
Big guy must weigh 250.
We're gonna hold on to this money.
I didn't get his badge number, but his last name's Marston.
You're gonna need to leave.
Main suspect number 2.
Hey, Mike! I'm posting bail. You stay low, all right?
You can fight for the money, but that'll take you most of a year and cost you twice what you're owed.
And it's legal?
It's law.
May I at least see my cousin?
You can fuck right
I
off.
would love to, sir, just as soon as I get my money back.
All right, so spoilers on for Rebel Ridge. Once again, it's on Netflix. So where do you want to begin with the spoiler discussion, Tiny?
I think I kind of wanted to focus on the relationship between Terry and Summer. I think the character's name was.
Yep.
Summer. I'm kind of glad that it didn't turn into a love story thing. It usually does. I just think it would have detracted from the movie. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it just I didn't need it, I guess. But I also feel like it wasn't as earned. Like there's a nice heart to heart they have where, you know, they do that whole setup on her with the whole heroin thing, and I thought that was cool. That was a really well written thing, and it made a lot of sense. But she calls him up and says she needs help, and he shows up, and they kind of lay out all their cards and have a heart to heart, and like that was good and everything. I liked that scene. I thought it was well written, but it felt like from there it's just like full trust, and like they're just going, they're ride or die for this mission. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think I would have liked it to be built to more of a build up to it than we actually got. It felt a little inorganic. I guess that relationship was a little bit forced. There was all the stuff where she was helping him in the court, and like that was cool too. I liked that, and in a whole town of corrupt people, she was the one honest one. So like that establishes a lot of trust as well. But I don't know. It fell a tad flat for me. And I don't think it was the performances. I think Aaron Pierre and Anna Sophia Robb both did pretty good with what they had. I liked both of them. So that was just one thing that kind of jumped out to me. And then there's some other stuff that just seemed rushed or dropped. Like for example, the thing with the judge. James Cromwell is there and then he's not. Like he's just in and out real quick, almost like a Deus Ex Machina type character. And then just the thing with Mr. Liu in the Chinese restaurant. Like, I needed more there. Like, why is this relevant? Where is this? Like, what's going on? Is this guy his friend? Was this a criminal empire? Was he a cook at the restaurant? Was he a server at the restaurant? Like, I don't know what's going on here. And it was just a really weird. We needed more there and more explanation.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. And I think that kind of goes back to the movie kind of bucking the convention of the story it's telling, that like any other type of like movie or story like this, that it is a derivative story. Like an ex-military person stumbles into a small town and they have all of this, like it's the general like wanderer person who has a particular set of skills who just unleashes it on corrupt people. Like that is a template that is kind of tried and true. It is a very popular template. But when I appreciate them somewhat kind of avoiding that or not really playing into it as like a big action set piece laden movie. But on the flip side, I feel like you said, I needed more about the restaurant. I needed more about his like experience, because so much of that first act is developing him, like his sole endeavor is he's going to go bail out his cousin. And then we get more context of that. Like why it's important is because his cousin is in bad with like organized crime and people that will kill him at the first chance they get when he's processed into the prison system. And like, that's a great motivator. That's a great thing. But like, I was left wondering, like you said, how involved is Terry in that? Like, what is the deal with the restaurant? Because like he cashed out his stake in the restaurant. I was thinking, and again, this is maybe intentional because this is just leading us away from it or wanting us to expect something that's not going to be there and it's going to be more grounded. But I was expecting like once it's revealed that like he did the MICMAP thing, the military martial arts thing program, I was thinking, or Marine Corps martial arts program, and excelled at it. I thought that was going to open the door to the movie being about like this guy who is just trying to have like a regular life, but also I was thinking he was going to be like an assassin or something for a criminal organization at the restaurant, but that's never really expanded on. And not that I needed that to be the thing, but I needed more context for his connection to the restaurant and what it means for what he was going through, because I kind of feel like his cousin gets more backstory for that than he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even his cousin's backstory is still pretty vague too. Like
Yeah.
I could have used more there.
Same.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as it being like just this wanderer going into a town storyline, I really liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been drawn to that type of like story. I don't know if it's some like this is not like I've like just wondered like what would it be like to just go into like just like pack up, go to like just go nowhere and then like just stumble into a town and just like, you know, just like working, like find a job there and then like find like housing and just like ingratiate yourself into the life of the small community and everything. I don't know. It's a weird thought. I don't know.
For sure. I totally get it. Yeah. There's,
I thought you were going to say it's for sure. It's a weird thought. You're weird.
No, that's a reasonable thought to have or you know, path to take, I guess. But another to kind of talk about the the action a little bit. There's not a ton of it, but again, I that feels grounded to me. That feels realistic, right? Like there's no scene of John McClane jumping on the wing of an F-16,
right?
Or launching a car into the air and taking out a helicopter with it, right? There's none of that, which is great. Like there's very simple, linear, realistic, logical violence and action in this movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, like one of my favorite is kind of like the first scene of action in the movie where he just shows up at the sheriff's office after he's had a run-in with him, and he just stands there and he waits for him to come out, and they have this conversation. And I loved the back and forth in that conversation. Really cool dialogue back and forth. Nothing super over the top or like ridiculous one-liner stuff.
Right.
Like he kind of flirted with the line a little bit, but not. It was all grounded. And then there's just very simple martial arts stuff, and he's not having his buddy from the Marine Corps ship him a bunch of weapons that he goes and assaults the fucking sheriff's department with. Like, he gets in there by disarming these guys, and there's no big shootout. And I mean, there's one at the end, but it's pretty grounded. It's nothing. It's nothing insane, you know. So I appreciated that realism. Again, there's nothing wrong. I fucking love Die Hard. Like,
absolutely.
I can't say that enough. I love Die Hard. Like, action movies are fun as hell, but like sometimes it's really it's refreshing, and it's cool to see something so grounded.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that grounded aspect is obviously it's very much in league with Jeremy Saulnier's whole career, basically, to this point. But also it works really well when things happen that are unexpected. So like one of my favorite scenes is when he's shot in the car, like when he is like being stopped, and like I just love the way that it's a snap and it happens, like because the cop is like, yeah, you know, you're right about the not having the lights on and when we stopped you and everything, because when we turn those on, that automatically starts the dash cam, and we don't want that. And then he just throws the gun, he's like, gun, and shoots him. Like that is such a great way to harness the tension of not only the scene that we're watching, but also just everything going up to that, because that's a very big moment. And he doesn't linger on it. He doesn't linger on the tension of the moment as to what the cop is going to do. He just reveals that in the split second. And it like that whiplash is fantastic. I loved that moment.
Totally agree. That's another really good example.
Yeah. I also was appreciative of the way that the way that the movie just kind of tells us that, like, oh yeah, his cousin's dead. Like the way that it just kind of presents it as like, yeah, he has a clear way out. The cops are like, they're bad, they're corrupt, they're terrible, but like he's got the money. He's going to he's going to be fine. Like everything's going to be fine. And then just like, I don't know, the way that like it's revealed that like he's being airlifted because he was attacked and all that. And then just like, again, just like cut to him identifying the body and all of that. That just ushers us into the revenge aspect of it, which is maybe the lesser part of the movie for me overall. But I really like that transition. And I really think that it helps solidify like his position, like why he's going to go after them and try to fix things as best he can. And like without needing Summer to really be the damsel of it, even though she kind of becomes the damsel later. But I like that we have like a clear trajectory of him staying in town to face off against these cops. And then the whole Summer thing happens, which is probably an issue with the movie itself being like the damsel and everything. But up until that point, it worked well.
Yeah, and that is a great point. The whole part of where the movie takes a total shift. The part where the sheriff drops the bag of money at his feet, and he's like, "We fucked up. Your brother being probably killed, was our
Cousin.
mistake. Cousin, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, you're good.
That was totally unintentional. We never wanted that to happen. We feel terrible. Let's break it off here. And to that point, it was like that was like one movie, and then we move into another one.
Yeah.
And that first movie, I was like, okay, that's more like a 4-star, 4.5-star movie. I really liked that part. That was great. That was all good. The first act and a half of the movie, essentially. So yeah, and then from there, it kind of falls into the tropish, like, oh well, they tried to hurt this girl, and she trusted me and helped me when she didn't have to, so I'm going to help her and help her when I didn't have to. Which, again, good trope. A lot of great movies that follow that trope, like Seven Samurai is kind of, falls into that, and honor and duty and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But it just felt like a completely different movie, and just kind of threw me off. And I was like, okay, I guess that's what we're going to do now, and it's fine. And it was good, and it was a Jeremy Saulnier's version of it, and it was good. But I kind of wish it would have stuck to that sort of trend and tone of the first act and a half. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, Summer's backstory comes a little too late in the movie, especially when we have kind of an absence of Terry's like full backstory. It feels a little bit disjointed. Those in the grand scheme of things are kind of minor quibbles that I have with it. But the kind of big thing that I kind of wanted to ask you about or kind of make sense of, because it kind of felt a little kind of confusing, I guess, like at the end of the movie, the very end of the movie, when they're escaping and they're trying to get to the hospital and everything, suddenly Jess, the cop, like does the pit maneuver on the chief instead of on them, and it's just, and then they give them the escort to the hospital. Like that's a good moment, and I guess I'm trying to make sense of like where that pivot takes place. Is it because David Denman's character is one of them and he's injured and they're trying to help him, or is it more of like, oh, this corrupt police force is now noticing like, yeah, okay, Chief Don Johnson is bad, so we're not going to follow him. We're going to follow our brother in arms who's injured. How did you feel about that? Like, what did you make of that?
I actually kind of liked that part. I thought it was all of the characters coming to the realization that, okay, this has gone too far.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were bending the law before by doing all these money seizures and all that stuff. And it's like, technically we were following the law. We were kind of massaging the legal system, but this is too far. Like, people are getting hurt, people are dying, and we're basically gonna have to kill this guy. And we're just like, that one officer Steve just like totally went off the handle, super violent, and like was gonna cause the Summer character to OD. Like, that's just, I think everybody just kind of came to the realization, okay, this has gone too far and we gotta stop.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of like that, and again, it kind of bucked the trend of this giant super dramatic, action packed climax of the movie, and it kind of diffused that, de-escalate. Kind of make a reference to the movie. So yeah, I kind of appreciated it, actually. And after that moment, they go to the hospital and the movie kind of ends. I kind of wanted a denouement for this movie. I thought I wasn't crazy about, like, I didn't hate it or anything, but I kind of wanted a bit of a denouement. I don't know what it should have been, but
sure.
I wasn't super thrilled with the just abrupt end of the movie. It just didn't quite work for me. Yeah,
I agree with you there. I kind of feel like there should have been like one scene, like just to kind of close it up. But also, it is kind of in keeping with the whole kind of wanderer traveler character aesthetic. Right. So I didn't mind it too much, but I do agree it probably would have benefited the movie a little bit more.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Anything else on Rebel Ridge? Did we cover everything in spoilers?
think we pretty much got it all.
Nice.
So what's her name? Anna Sophia Robb.
Mm-hmm.
So she was a child actor,
Mm.
and I saw her in The Way Back and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh yeah, I need to watch the way back again.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'd ever seen her as like an adult.
Mm.
Like I kept looking at her. I'm like, who is that? Like she looks so familiar, but I couldn't place her in anything.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that's right. She was the girl from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and
Mm-hmm.
way back. But I really have not seen her in much. I mean, but it was just kind of interesting to see her cast in this role.
Yeah, and she did a great job. I thought. Like
Yeah.
there's that. It's kind of tricky when you have a movie like this where kind of like what you were saying. Like it could easily be kind of devolve into romance subtext between the two of them. And that could be just basically her whole point in the movie. And while I did feel like the backstory that she was given, the addiction and the child and everything, felt like it was a little bit of heavy lifting late in the movie rather than being kind of brought in naturally through the movie. I do respect that the movie does do something with her that's not just the conventional arc that you would expect from this type of movie. And I think that she carried herself very well and like performed the role really well. And yeah, I think both her and Aaron Pierre were great.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that will do it for our spoiler review for Rebel Ridge. I also really briefly, I do like that. You know, the whole, like, Rebel Ridge is, maybe this is a bigger point for the whole movie. Like, the title is Rebel Ridge. Rebel Ridge is where they agreed to have, like, the meetup or whatever at the end. But, like, it doesn't play a factor in anything. It's like a decoy. It's something that, like, they end up going to the station for. And maybe that's a bigger statement about kind of what Saulnier was doing with the movie, like, presenting it as, like, oh, this martial arts expert, Marine who is fighting against a corrupt police force. Like, we're going to flip that on its ear the way that, you know, Rebel Ridge isn't a big thing in this movie. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't give it a lot of thought. Yeah. I thought it was, I think he was probably just like, what the hell are we going to call this movie? So
Yeah.
It's just Rebel Ridge sounds cool.
Right. Yeah. So that could be it. So that is our review of Rebel Ridge. Once again, Tiny rated it 3.5 stars. By the way, I didn't say this at top. You can follow Tiny at letterboxd.com/obsessivetiny. Link in the show notes, of course. And I rated it 4 stars. Very solid outing from Jeremy Saulnier, and we're both eager to see what he does next. Tiny, do you want to get to the secondary review? We can be kind of brief with it. We'll probably do a spoiler review for it, but are you ready for the Deliverance?
Absolutely.
All right. And before we get to our secondary review, I do want to take a quick moment to remind you that if you like the show, please take a moment to follow us on social media and subscribe to and rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you use Pocket Casts, I guess you can rate the show on there as well. Or whatever your preferred podcast app is, please give us some love on there. Even just making sure you subscribe to the show can help boost it, I think. I don't know how any of that works. Been doing this for almost 12 years. And don't forget to subscribe to the Obsessive Viewer Podcast YouTube channel as well, where I have several video versions of the podcast posted, and also short video reviews of movies and shows and a bunch of stuff on there. So follow us on the Obsessive Viewer Podcast YouTube channel. And if you're interested in starting a podcast of your own, you can go to Libsyn and use the promo code OBSESS when you sign up for a new account. You'll get up to 2 months free depending on when you sign up during the month, and we will get a commission on it as well. I've been using Libsyn for all of the podcasts for 12 years now, or 11 and a half years now. Never had an issue. Love them to death. Really great way to host your podcast. And so check that out. More details are in the show notes of this episode. And now back to the show.
They tell me I view obsessively.
And for this week's secondary review, we're going to be covering The Deliverance, which is available on Netflix. It was released on August 30th, 2024. In the premise, according to, let's run down the cast and director. Director is Lee Daniels, and writers are David Coggeshall and Elijah Bynum. And the premise, according to IMDb, is an Indiana family discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince them and their community that the house is a portal to hell. The movie stars Andra Day, Glenn Close, Anthony B. Jenkins, Caleb McLaughlin, Demi Singleton, Anjanou Ellis Taylor, Monique, and Omar Epps. So Tiny, I think we'll do a probably brief non-spoiler review, and then I do have some soapboxes to get on in spoilers, but how did you feel in non-spoilers about The Deliverance?
This movie was really a mess. I hate to say it, because I feel like we're in a really good age of horror right now, and I think a filmmaker like Lee Daniels jumping into the genre is exciting. And I feel like, maybe this isn't my place to say, but I feel like there's a correlation or an interesting relationship with Black people in horror.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe Lee Daniels would have some commentary on that. It's rare to see a Black family, the main characters in a horror film.
Yeah.
So I was kind of intrigued by all that. And then just the fact that, hey, this is an Indiana story.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a true story. It happened to people who live in Indiana. But man, the movie was just a mess. It was structured really poorly. It was written really poorly.
Oh, horrendously bad.
I think the aesthetic. Yeah, I think the aesthetic and the directing, camera angles were actually pretty good. I actually kind of liked some of them. Were relatively creative, but that was one of the only things I liked about the movie. I also think the main cast of actors did a pretty good job. I had never seen Andra Day in anything. She was compelling. Did a pretty good job. Glenn Close is freaking awesome every time she's on screen, so I liked her. And Monique had, with what little she had to work with, very little she had to work with, she shined in a couple moments.
Yeah.
But other than that, the movie was just a mess. It was really a mess. It didn't know what it was supposed to be. It was. I take issue with haunting movies anyways, because I feel like to some degree they're all the same damn movie. I'm not big on like haunting ghost story movies. I prefer other types of horror. And I mean, this is the classic family moves into a house. They start experience the house is evil, or something happened in the house and there's spirits in the house, whatever. And the family starts to suffer the consequences of that haunting, of that move into the house. And like, again, that is a very established trope in horror. In my opinion, I think Poltergeist is probably the best of that trope. I actually really love that movie. But most of the other ones that kind of follow that trope, I'm just not a fan of. It's like nothing. I'm not experiencing anything new with this movie, with this story, that I haven't already seen. So I was worried about it from that standpoint anyways. I guess this isn't necessarily a haunting, it's demonic possession, but it's the same kind of format, you know. But yeah, and you know, it's the movie is just unfortunately a mess, and we'll get into it in spoilers. But it's really a shame, because I was hoping for some, like I said, for some commentary from Lee Daniels maybe, and maybe something a little bit fresh and different. And there's a tiny bit of it, but it does not go very far. So unfortunately, pretty disappointed with this one.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. It's so funny to me that it is like it is as cookie cutter as it gets with this type of movie. And it does feel like I feel like there was an intention to make like a Poltergeist or Amityville Horror or Exorcist also, or The Conjuring, even like that type of movie. By like, I feel like I kind of feel like the log line of it, or like the thing on like Lee Daniels's like whiteboard in his office is like Poltergeist by way of Jordan Peele, because the first hour of this movie, this is a painfully long movie for me because the writing is horrendous. Nothing really connects as well as it should, but that first 50 to 60 minutes of the movie is so occupied with like the social commentary of the family, like the roughness of the family, the poor experience of of the family, the poverty, the substance abuse with Ebony's character, the violence, the generational trauma, the generational abuse that comes down from Glenn Close's character down to Ebony. It has all of these very interesting points to make about like this experience of this family, this lived experience, and the way that the trauma has trickled down through a generation. Through like, there's so many times where Ebony says to Alberta, like, basically, like, I learned it from watching you. Basically, she says this so many times, like this type of thing, so many times. But as much as the movie spends most of the first hour kind of calling attention to that, it doesn't do anything with it. It doesn't really make it. It's more just kind of talking to us and not really digging into what it means or what it will mean in terms of the demonic possession stuff in the last half of the movie. It just felt like and this is going to be very reductive of it, but it felt like we need to fill 50 minutes before we get to the actual horror elements of it. Let's just talk vaguely about these characters as a family, as dysfunctional and painful as it is, but not really say anything about it. Just get us to the point where we get all the demonic possession stuff, that when it hits that, I feel like every single bit of the possession, the exorcism, the deliverance and everything, like it felt like it was piecemeal together from every other movie that I've seen of this type of movie. And like, it didn't offer anything interesting or new. And it just like, I was left so bored by it and so annoyed by the wasted kind of potential, because I usually eat up that kind of character driven stuff in the first half of the movie, but it did nothing for me.
Yeah, I really agree with you. I think for me, just a little bit different. I think the first act, the family drama and the family trauma, was kind of working for me. I was kind of into it. I was like, oh man, this is like harsh, and this is really dark, and they are in dire straits, and the friction, especially between Ebony and Alberta, her mother, was just like really tense and harsh, you know. And I was like, man, this is crazy, and I kind of into this. I'm kind of into it, and I'm curious how it's going to influence all of the horror that we're going to experience. And it kind of didn't.
Yeah.
To your point, it was like, okay, it's like they were filming two different movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you know, I was here for a horror movie, and the part I didn't really like any of the horror. I was pretty bored by it, like you said. But I was somewhat taken by the dramatic elements of the movie, and those kind of got left by the wayside. Yeah, I mean, it again, we might elaborate on it in spoilers, but it was just pretty much a mess.
Yeah. and like the dialogue was just so bad. Like it just felt just so stilted and awkward, and like I appreciate the performances when they had something to work with, but there were moments where it just felt like the dialogue was just advancing the plot. It wasn't doing anything. It was reiterating things that were said over and over again throughout that first like hour or so. And it just felt just very, it didn't have like any driving force to it. And that's a shame, because I do like a lot of these actors in this cast are great, and they had flashes of very strong performances, but I think the really lackluster plot and terrible pacing and just like everything was working against the actors in this movie.
Yep, I agree. I was looking at Lee Daniels' body of work. I don't know that I'm really a fan.
Me neither, honestly.
I hate to say that, because I think if you look at his movies on paper, like something like The Butler or Precious, those are highly dramatic films and kind of award-winning kind of films and stuff like that. But I wasn't a big fan of either of those movies, and like
me neither.
Man, I like looking at his body of work. The only thing that I'm like, oh, that was a good movie, is Monsters Ball, and that was like and I don't think he even directed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he let me look. Hang on. I think he just produced it. Yeah, he just produced it. He didn't even direct that.
Okay,
that's not even really his movie necessarily.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like with with Precious, based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire, there like it feels like there's a lot. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see The Butler, or I think I've really only seen Precious and now the Deliverance. But and maybe this isn't maybe I'm not informed enough to make this statement, but it just feels like there's a level of like poverty porn that he does, like not even poverty porn, but just despair porn. Like Precious is like, there's just so much just horrendous stuff that happens to that character. And it's like, when you have like a movie that is just so filled with horrible, horrible things, and then you also throw in a thing where she's running through the street eating like a bucket of popcorn, of chicken, fried chicken, it just feels like weird. It feels like it's trying to make a statement, but not really making any like profound statement with it. And that's the same thing with the Deliverance. Like there's just so much to that family having so much dysfunction and so much poverty, so much working against them. And then like there's a thing that I'll talk about in spoilers that kind of like works out for them, like works out in a way that I took issue with too. But like, it just feels like for the level of like despair that is being depicted, it's not enough of a payoff for the movie and the characters. It just feels like that's kind of seems like that's kind of his deal. It's like he'll throw these characters through the ringer, but not really pay them off or have them be as energetically triumphant as they are despairingly just in a bad state of living.
I agree with you 100%. I think I know how to quantify it. Lee Daniels will often reach a point of diminishing returns.
Mm-hmm.
Like he overemphasizes his point. It's like, okay, we understand they're impoverished, they're traumatized. We get it, but he just keeps hammering on it, especially with Precious, like you're talking about. I remember thinking, like, by the end of it, I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's just like he just piles on the trauma, and it's like, okay, this is you've exceeded the point of diminishing returns. Like it's it's no longer effective. That's
Yep.
I think that's how I would quantify it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing I want to highlight before we go into spoilers is that it is, and this can kind of guide us into spoilers as well, but like it's a bigger thing. This isn't a thing that really affects the movie itself, but like even the marketing, like I assume that the premise on IMDb is pulled from marketing material for the movie from the actual studio. I don't know. But the premise is an Indiana family discovers strange demonic occurrences. The movie's filmed in Pittsburgh. The movie is set in Pittsburgh. And that's because Indiana doesn't have like tax, incentives or anything. The family that this is based on, like the events occurred in Gary, Indiana. And like something that just bothered me about that is that like it opens with like 2011, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's like, do you need to say that it's in Pittsburgh? Like you can just like shoot Pittsburgh, but like it doesn't need to be specifically Pittsburgh. It can, we can pretend it's Gary, Indiana. Like it doesn't need to be filmed there. You can just shoot it for that. Like totally. Why? Yeah, it just that just kind of bugged me as someone in Indiana. But someday.
Well, and why does the IMDb description say an Indiana family? It's not...
I have no idea.
Weird.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, I don't know if that is something that, like I said, I don't know if that was pulled from. Yeah, I don't know. It's not credited as where it's pulled from.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, do you want to go into spoilers for The Deliverance or anything else you want to say before? Okay.
I think we're good to go. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we are going to go into spoilers for The Deliverance. Once again, it is streaming on Netflix. It was released on August 30th. We're going to spoil the movie right after I play a clip from the trailer. So here we go. Clip from the trailer for The Deliverance. When we come back, we're spoiling the movie.
Remember, before we get started, whatever it says to you, do not listen to it. It will play on your heart. It will play on your mind. My name is Apostle Bernice James. The other person present is Ebony Jackson, the mother. Father, we ask that you cleanse and sanctify us for this deliverance. Ebony?
All right, so spoilers on for The Deliverance. And Tiny, can I get on my soapbox real quick?
Go for it, man. Okay,
so here's the thing about this movie that really kind of bothered me a lot. It like I said, it is really hammering it down that this is an impoverished family. They're like they're in a bad situation. So this is also kind of I don't know. This is not. I don't know if this is necessarily going to play into like the thoughts on the movie or anything, but it also kind of is. So in the like quote unquote true story, hey, if you believe in this kind of thing, more power to you. I don't. So like when I see like, oh, this is based on a true story of this family that's haunted by demons and had to have an exorcism performed and everything, I'm like, okay, that's a fun story. Like that's a fun story. Maybe it'll be a cool movie, but it's from my perspective, I don't see enough to see that as like an actual true account of what's happened. Could be a number of other things. I'm not calling it out as like fake or anything. Could be anything from mental illness. Could be anything from anything. Embellishment, whatever. So the story like happened in Gary, Indiana, which is a very kind of impoverished town, like very much like Gary, Indiana is not like a bustling metropolis or anything like that. The trivia for the movie, and it's something that's said in the final title card of the movie, is that the house that this took place in has since been demolished and remains vacant, and spooky things happen there. Very vague. But the actual trivia is that this occurrence in 2011 was documented or was covered on the show Ghost Adventures. And the host of Ghost Adventures, I think it was Ghost Adventures, ended up buying the house and then demolished it because he had a bad feeling about it. And like, for a movie that is so centering on the bad misfortune, the generational trauma, the impoverished nature of this family, it feels just weird that not only in real life, but at the end of the movie, the big triumphant thing is like, hey, this building that is a home, that is a house, was demolished and remains vacant there. So now demons can't live there or anything. But it's like, I mean, you know, maybe a family that doesn't believe in that stuff will want to live there. And if you're a rich enough asshole that you can buy property and then demolish it and leave it vacant, maybe give it to someone who could live there with their family. Like, it's so weird, and it feels so like disingenuous for the movie. And this is another soapbox that I'll get on really quick, but like, the movie, the entire like possession storyline, the last hour of the movie is centered around like, okay, you know, we're doing this completely derivative, like every single scene involving the possession and the horror aspect of it is like things that are lifted from other movies and were done so much better decades ago. Like there's a line that's been going around social media that when Glenn Close's character is possessed and she says, "I can smell your nappy pussy," which is an incredible line, and it's kind of hilarious and out of nowhere, but also like, I mean, that's the same thing as like Reagan in The Exorcist saying, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell," and like, there's nothing new or inventive about it that's being used in this for that thing. And the issue with it that I have is like, the entire movie hinges on the the resolution of it is like, oh, I believe in Jesus Christ, so now you're gone, and like I've persevered because I believe in Jesus. And like, hey, that's great, you know, more power to you and everything. But also, again, what's different after it's over? Like, what is different? Like, how have they grown as characters? And also, like, if the whole point of the movie is that like, hey, this impoverished, very destitute family have now seen like the path of Jesus and everything, and they can live through it now, then like, why is the like stinger of the movie like, hey, this house is, you know, demolished now, and then, you know, now no one can live there? It's just, I don't know if I'm communicating that right, but like, it just, so many elements of that just bothered me and made me just kind of feel like annoyed with the movie and the way it positions certain things. So that's my soapbox.
Okay. Wow. I was wondering where you're going to go with it. But,
yeah.
I didn't have that thought. Yeah, but I it makes sense. I mean, that's logical what you're saying. Yeah, the whole nappy pussy line was it was shocking, but The Exorcist did it better. You know, and for me, it's like, when I think about those lines, I try to think about like, what's a shocking line that a demon who's possessing a person can say. It's not necessarily something like that, or your mother sucks cocks in hell. To me, what's more disturbing is there's a moment in the movie where the young boy Andre, who is possessed by the demon or the devil, it's when he's in the hospital and Monique comes to see him, and by that point in the movie I was kind of detached, and it's not that I wasn't paying attention, I just wasn't as engaged.
Honestly, same.
And he says a line. We learned earlier in the movie that she had lost a son. Her son got hit by that character. Her son had been hit by a car and died when he was like 7. And the demon in that moment says something about her son, and he like calls him by his name, and he's like, he's down here with me or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, that's a way better that is a way more disturbing line to me than your mother sucks cocks in hell. like it's like the like situational, personal stuff like that I find more shocking and horrific. And I kind of wish the people who make these movies would do that, like instead of the demon saying I'm going to burn your soul forever, like
right,
that's not scary.
No.
Like but if it's something like I torture your mother every day, like we know that the character's mother passed away when they were a kid, and like that situation, and the devil's like, I torture your mother every day, and with a smile on my face, like that's fucked up. Like that's a scary,
absolutely
crazy, scary line that I prefer much better. But like, I feel like the writers of these movies always go for like a shock line, and I'm like, it just doesn't. For me, those like almost never land.
No,
occasionally,
yeah,
but unfortunately, that's probably what this movie's going to be remembered for.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Glenn Close using the phrase "nappy pussy."
Yeah, it's rough, and yeah. Honestly, I don't have much else to say about it. It wasn't good.
It was not good. Yeah. It felt everything felt rushed. The whole her meeting the Reverend woman and rushing through the backstory that she had and that whole thing, she dies, and then man, it just I was like, I'm so detached from this by now. I'm kind of ready to be done with it. So
yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. So I guess I
wish I had more to say, but I don't.
But I mean, it kind of seems like they didn't have enough to say either. So when they made it, so I ended up rating this 1.5 stars on Letterboxd. Because I already went in with the preconceived idea that like I don't like exorcism movies. I don't like these types of movies, like the religious horror, the demonic possession stuff. Just doesn't. It takes a lot to really kind of wow me with that. I'm not opposed to it. Like kind of in a similar vein, the movie Talk to Me from a couple of years ago. Freaking adore that movie. I think that's incredibly inventive, really awesome, and it's unique. And that's the thing that I want out of these types of movies. And this was not unique in the least bit. So, like I said, I rated it 1.5 stars. Tiny, what did you rate it?
I gave it 2, which was maybe a little generous.
That's fair. So that's our review of The Deliverance. And Tiny, we've been going for a long time, so I'm going to forego potpourri.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm right.
So,
it's late.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. We hopped on this call 4 hours ago, Tiny.
Holy shit.
So we're making up for lost time. So so that is our review for The Deliverance. That's this episode. Tiny, so glad to have you back, and so happy for you and Paige and the little bundle of joy, the future obsessive viewer. I'm just delighted, and I'm very, very thankful that you have made time for this little thing here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And where can people find you online, Tiny?
The best place is probably Letterboxd, at Obsessive Tiny on there. Because I don't really get on Twitter much, and I'm not really public on my Facebook or Instagram. So probably Letterboxd would be the best place.
Nice. Well, everyone give Tiny a follow and a congratulations to him as well. That's it for this week's episode of The Obsessive Viewer. As always, thank you so much for listening, and make sure to follow the show on social media and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast app. Also, check out Obsessive Viewer Podcast's other shows, such as Tower Junkies, a Stephen King podcast hosted by Tiny and myself, and Anthology, the Twilight Zone and Classic Sci-Fi podcast hosted by yours truly. Next week on the show, the plan is to review Beetlejuice, and I think the 4:30 movie, the new Kevin Smith movie. So we'll see that. That's next week. Until then, thank you so much for listening. And Tiny, welcome back. I'm excited.
Me too. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, of course. And now, enjoy this short clip from a recent Patreon exclusive episode. For the full episode and more Patreon exclusive content, sign up at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. The information about her, like, are you like on here, are you wanting to go like no name, or like how is that something that you've come up with or discussed?
I don't think we've actually talked about it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and most of my social media is pretty public as well. We should definitely talk about that, but yeah, I
I just love like the dawning realization in your voice, like we should definitely talk about that.
I mean, for real, like I don't think I've really thought about it, which is kind of fucked up. Are we in a throuple? Is that what's happening right now?
I am so glad you finally got to that. Thank you for listening to the Obsessive Viewer podcast. This episode was produced and edited by me, Matt Hurt. If you have feedback, thoughts on our episodes, or just want to connect, you can email me at matt@obsessiveviewer.com. For more information on this show, including a full archive of our episodes and show notes, visit obsessiveviewer.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please give us a follow on social media and subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice so you never miss an episode. Also, consider rating and reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Audible to help increase our visibility and grow our community. If you want to support the show and get early access to new episodes, as well as a steady stream of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. For information on more podcasts presented by obsessiveviewer.com, visit obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. Our theme song is A Little Mad Sometimes by As Good As It Gets. For more of their music, check them out on Spotify and at asgoodasitgetsmusic.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify, get helpful stats and all the support you need to sound your very best.